Hi there, another look at vapes. This time it's a Cloud Beast, and it's a Paradise from R&M, Paradise, Mr. Blue. Didn't think it was a vape at first, thought it was just a bottle, a very heavy bottle, but then picked it up and found it contained liquid which didn't run out, which surprised me, but was in fact a vape. So how that's held in there, no idea, and I'm not going in there, not with that nasty liquid there. The thing itself then just has the label wrapped round, it has an aluminium cylinder, and in the bottom it had this piece of plastic which went in so, and it had round it another piece of plastic which enabled you to open and close the amount of air that went through it. Very difficult to get this out. It didn't actually seem to be levered in, it just seems to be a friction fit, but very difficult to get out. When I got that out then, still no liquid falling out, but what we have at the bottom, we hopefully can see the two little wires. It'll come back again. Two little wires that connect to the heater. So I took those off, took the cell out and had a look at it. If we look on the internet then, we found the only place I could find this particular one there, R&M Mr. Blue, was from the Made in China website. On the website it gives no indication of the battery size, but it does give details of it. Production capacity is 100,000, whether that's a day, an hour, a week or a month, I don't know. But if you wanted to order 1,000 pieces, then you could have them for between 4.5 American dollars around, which seems quite cheap for something like this. But of course, by the time you've shipped it and put taxes on, then it's going to be quite a lot of money. The thing about it is, it claims it has 10,000 puffs. Which is quite a lot for an electronic cigarette. Bear in mind that the Elux 3,500 puffs seems to be the biggest I've found so far. Very interesting. So where are we with this? Well, inside we have a cell, of course, but when we look at the cell, it's actually only a 500 milliamp hour cell, as opposed to the Elux 3,500 puff, which is a 1,500 milliamp hour cell. And they could easily have put one of these cells inside here. In fact, maybe they did originally. Maybe originally this had a larger cell in, but because it's rechargeable, it has a C-type recharger on the bottom, which came out there, then they don't really need a larger battery because people can keep recharging it. Although if it is only a 500 milliamp hour battery, although I measured it at 542 milliamp hours, and the fact it weighs 10 grams probably means it's about 500 milliamp hours. So yeah, interesting. Bit like the old solar lights that they used to put out in the garden from the pound shop. Originally they had quite big, I think they were AAA cells in them, and over the years they gradually got smaller and smaller and smaller till they had minute little cells in them, presumably to make it cheaper. So whether that's what these people have done, I don't know. One thing for sure is, though, it must be illegal in this country. I've just been reading about the eighth most popular bestseller in the UK in February 2022 was the Elux Legend 3500, which is supposedly illegal in this country because it has a capacity of more than 2 millilitres of fluid. It has 10, so this thing must also be highly legal. And the interesting thing to me, when I look at the battery size, if the Elux is 1500 and gives us 3500 puffs, then 10,000 puff is going to need, well, about 3 times that, which is 4,500 milliamp hours. So to get this 500 milliamp hour to give us this 5,500, we'd probably have to charge it 9 times, which is interesting. Maybe that's why I found it. If we look at the electronics inside it, then we find 2 circuit boards, interestingly, joined together. One of the circuit boards has the switch on with its usual 3 leads. One is a switch wire, although why they've used that, I'm not too sure. What we have here then is the USB socket. Again, it has 6 connectors on it. And if we look at this, the 2 outer are 0 volts, the next 2 in are the positive, and then the 2 middle ones connect via 2 resistors, which are over here somewhere, so that presumably it knows the rate at which it should be charged. I haven't looked into that. It also has a couple of LEDs which come from some of the electronics on the back. So it also then goes off to the cell and to this board here, which I've replaced the heater with a LED and a 1 ohm resistor. So if we plug it in, let's try that. Let's have some volts, 3.8 volts, an average sort of thing for a lithium cell. Try connecting it in. Gives us a little flash when it came on, but apart from that, nothing seems to happen. So if I blow in, try again. What I want to do is to hold that there and blow in. Can't really see much, can we? Apart from lots of flashing lights. So let's try again. So what we have are 3 tricolour LEDs on this board, which when I suck, the light comes on, but as soon as I stop, the light goes off, but the LEDs keep flashing. So it must have some sort of circuitry to do that. Let's have a look at the actual circuit then, see if we can work out what's going on. So if we look at the top board, the one with the USB on it, we got our switch up here. That has its blue wire coming in and on, although every other vape I found with the blue wire on, that went straight to the heating coil. But here, no, they're going to use a transistor to boost the supply to the other board. We have our USB itself with its 2 outer connectors being 0 volts It's next to in being 5 volts, and the 2 centre ones being connected to ground via these resistors. We also have what I assume is a smoothing capacitor here going into this chip, which I assume is a battery management chip. So it has the positive going in here, and then the battery voltage coming out. So here's my cell, or battery as people call them, coming out from this management chip. So up at the top then we have our classic sort of switch using a transistor to switch, and our 5 volts coming out, a capacitor across the 5 and 0 volts. Down here we've got another resistor, which I assume is the current limiting resistor, so the chip knows what current to send to the cell when it's charging it. And here we have a couple of LEDs that let it know it's being charged, presumably. So that's the top board. Took a long time to work out. The bottom board, once again, took a long time. I've separated out the LEDs. In fact, each LED had a green, a red and a blue, but I've put them all together for convenience. So we have the positive coming in, H positive, and H negative then, the blue switched wire, and the 0 volts down at the bottom. We have this PNP transistor here, so that as soon as this goes low, then it switches on this transistor switching on, then charges up this capacitor and makes it high on the input to this chip here, which I just assume is some sort of cheapo microcontroller. And that then, one lead goes to the green LEDs, one to the red LEDs and one to the blue LEDs. Once again, these of course are, there's one green, one red and one blue on each of the little chips, but I've put them all together to make it easier to understand what goes on. And then we have the H plus here, which comes into the chip, and it's enabled by this over here. I've put the coil in at this position here, but of course on mine I've replaced it with an LED. So yeah, fascinating thing, supposedly illegal, but people seem to sell them. And the e-looks, there seems to be dozens of their packets left lying around, far more packets than the e-looks themselves. A couple of pictures of the circuit boards, not very good, showing our 2 LEDs, our USB coming in, our positives connected there, our negatives round here, and these two then go on to the other side of the board where it has its resistors. So yeah, all interesting in all. That's my big LED I've put on, just connected it across where the H plus and H minus went. Very little else on that side of that board. Looking at the other side then, it seems very complicated. I haven't bothered trying to follow the tracks. I've just used a multimeter to test to make sure that all 3 are connected in parallel. And that's then, I think, is our controller, and that's the chip, the transistor, which charges up this capacitor, which keeps this chip on for longer. So the LEDs keep flashing after you stop sucking on it. Yeah, interesting, but hopefully the last vape video I'll do, hopefully I can move on to something more interesting. But the cells out of these, well, the e-lux cells at 1500 are very useful. At 500 milliamp hours, not that useful. Anyway, that's it. Bye for now. Bye.